Before you begin installation, ensure you have the appropriate PPE and you read the instructions fully. Replacement instructions can be found at galebreaker.com. Check the contents of your screen against the parts listed on page 3 of your instruction manual. Do not let the screen material come into contact with any sharp object or edges. Using the yellow template, drill M8 holes for the 2 top brackets. The maximum recommended overlap for post-fixing is 150mm on the drive end and 100mm on the free end. For lintel fixing, it's 175mm. It's essential that the top brackets are level and upright. Bolt the drive bracket onto the building with the M8 fixing supplied. Then slide the drive collar onto the chain wheel gear. The orientation of the drive bracket is specified when you ordered your door. If you need to cut your door, measure the distance between the centre of the drilled holes and cut the top tube 15mm shorter than this distance. Cut the screen material 50mm shorter than this distance. Push the flute guide insert over the end of the flute in the tube to protect the fabric sheet as it's being fitted. Slide the nylon insert, which can be found inside the wing bars, into the pocket of the fabric and cut to size. Slide the fabric panels and wing bars onto the top tube assembly. Once the fabric is inserted, remove the flute guide from the end of the flute. Secure the screen in each corner using the 25mm self-drilling screw supplied. Ensure the wing bar protection caps are fixed at the same time. To prevent damage to the caps, do not over-tighten the screws. It is important to tension the sheet sideways before fixing to remove creases. Do not secure the fabric to the top tube at this point. Roll the wing bars and the fabric panels onto the top tube. It is important that when the door is hung, the fabric should come off the back of the top tube, between the tube and the building face. Tie up the roller assembly. Slide the spring assembly into the top tube and lift into position, checking that the fabric rolls off the back of the top tube. Locate the top tube on the drive collar and bolt the spring end brackets to the building using the M8 fixing supplied. If the optional cowling has been supplied, it's now time to fit the cowling brackets, labelled CB1 in the diagram. You can find the instructions for installing the cowling at the end of this video. Equally cut the 2 guide rails to fill the space between the bottom of the top brackets and the ground, allowing 8.5cm for the guide. The guide rails should be cut to the same length with the cut side at the top. Make sure that the uncut end with the slot and holes is at the bottom, ready to accept the locking catches. Fit the pair of guides into the top of the guide rails and secure with the M6x12 bolt and nut into the front face. The guide rails are to be positioned so that the free end guide rail is flush with the spring bracket and the drive end guide rail is offset by 50mm from the drive bracket. The cut ends of the guide rail should be positioned 45mm below the wall brackets. Fit the guide rails to the building with the M8 fixings at 500mm centres. See figure 8b for the standard installation layout. Pass the upper catch screws through the locking catch stop plate fitted on the inside of the guide rail to prevent the catch sliding up the pre-punched slots. Bolt the locking catches to the base of the guide rails using the M8x20 set screws and lock nuts supplied. Fit caps to the top of the locking catches. Ensure the swinging arm of the locking catch clears the long slot in the guide rail. Feed the operating chain around the chain wheel and through the chain guide. Make the chain into a continuous loop by joining the 2 ends with the gold joining link, After closing, file away any sharp edges to ensure the chain does not injure operators. It is not necessary to weld the link shut.
Install the chain tensioner to the guide rail or building with the two M8 fixings. The height of the chain tensioner depends on your installation, but is typically 1.5 metres high. Pre-tension the spring mechanism by rotating the roll assembly in the direction shown. This is done by pulling down on the inner chain. The number of pre-tension turns is given in the table. When the required number of turns has been reached, lock the operating chain into the chain tensioner. When measuring the insert and the bottom flap, measure the gap between the inside face of the guide rails and add 15 mm. Slide the nylon insert into the pocket of the flap, and then slide the flap onto the bottom flute. Untie the top tube assembly and lower the door. Pull the fabric outside the guide rails and slide on the bottom tube. Centralise and trim excess fabric as shown. Push the inserts into the tube and fix using the 4x19mm self-drilling screws supplied. Secure flap with the same self-drilling screws. Centralise the screen and secure each corner using the 19mm self-drilling screws supplied. It's important to tension the sheet sideways before fixing to remove creases. Insert one end of the bottom tube into the guide rail and insert the other end into the opposite guide rail. Adjust the operating chain so that when the door is lowered, the joining link is situated below the chain tensioner. During high winds, there is considerable force on the chain between the wheel and the chain tensioner, and there is a risk that the joint would fail in these circumstances. Attach the lock and catch instruction labels to the front of the guide rails at a convenient height. Attach the company detail label centrally on the front of the bottom tube. If the lock and catch is active, disable it by pushing on the disengagement lever. Pull the operating chain to open and close your door and insert the outer chain into the chain tensioner to hold the door at any level.
It is vital that a closed door is secured via the locking catches when the wind speed is above 32 km per hour or 20 miles per hour. Fit cowling brackets using the supplied M8 bolts and nuts. Note that only 3 brackets are required on the drive end. Cut a 50 by 220mm notch in the end of one cowling section before assembly to accept the chain wheel. Fit the cowling chain wheel bracket using the M8 by 70mm bolt. To position the bracket face 60mm from the inside edge of the top bracket. Secure with a nylock nut. Measure the total length to be covered. Ensure the measurement is taken from the outside edge of the top brackets and calculate the required overlap using the 1.75 metre cowling sections with a minimum overlap of 265mm per join. The individual sections do not need cutting down to fit. Overlap in some configurations can be in excess of 600mm per join. Mark the overlap positions on 2 faces of the cowl section to assist in correct alignment. Fit 6 rivets per face, marking 10mm from each end and the centre of the join. Make sure the rivet pattern is the same as shown. It is recommended to use an electric or compressed air riveting tool when working with stainless rivets. Electric cordless rivet tools can be hired from several tool hire companies. Try to work corner to corner to ensure the join remains uniform and aligned. When riveting the joins, it is important to ensure the cowl is straight and level. If working on uneven ground, the cowl section may require lifting to ensure a uniform fit. When securing the top face, additional clamps such as mole grips can be helpful to keep the sections aligned when drilling and riveting. If you're fitting the cowl directly against an eaves beam or cladding, The top rivet may be reversed to ensure a flat face for flush installation. Check the length again before riveting the final join. Once the cowl has been assembled, lift into position. If using a forklift or access platform to lift the cowling, roll the assembly onto its front face. This offers much greater support and reduces the risk of deforming or damaging the cowling before final installation. When the cowling has been positioned at the correct height, carefully roll the cowl onto the brackets and secure with the supplied M5.5 by 19 self-drilling screws. Do not fit the self-drilling screws within 20 mm of the cowling edge to avoid hitting the nuts used to secure the cowling brackets. As a safety precaution, do not fit your cowling in high wind or adverse weather conditions.
There's a broad range of spare parts available which can be found on our website or ordered through your local dealer. Thank you for choosing Galebreaker Agri. We're pleased to offer you a 10-year guarantee, full details of which can be found on our website.